Hi, kindergarten. It's Miss Cliff. Today we're going to read a Level B book called Drop It. So this book is all about a dog named Gus, and he's always picking things up that he shouldn't. So before we begin, I want you to think about what you know about dogs. So I want you to pause the video, turn and talk with a parent or sibling, and tell them what you know about dogs. All right, so the reason that we're talking about what we know about dogs is because good readers make connections between what they know and new information that they read. This is called connecting prior knowledge. So while we read today, I want you to be connecting some prior knowledge, which means things that you already know about dogs with this book and with Gus, the dog. So materials you're going to need today are your story elements chart. If you can't print the story elements chart, then you can just do it on a piece of paper, and you'll also need a pencil. So pause the video and get your materials and then come on back to me. All right, now that you have your materials, we're going to be talking all about the different story elements today. A story is made up of many parts called story elements. Today, we're going to fill in our story chart to track those elements while we read. So let's take a look at what those story elements are. S is for setting. We know that's where and when the story takes place. T is for talking characters. Now, not all characters are talking characters, but we can differentiate between the main characters and the secondary characters. O is for oops, there's a problem. R is for resolve the problem. We're not going to be talking about that story element today, but we will talk about why for yes, there's a solution. A solution is how the problem is fixed or solved. So let's get into drop it. Our focus question today is, what does Gus like to do and why? Do you have any predictions yet? I bet you do. Let's go ahead and read together. Before we begin, let's talk about some words that we need to know. So I will say the word and I want you to repeat it after me. Burger. Like a hamburger, but that's just short, burger. All. Drop. Like I drop the ball. Keys. Like I need my keys to start my car. Paper. And slipper. All right, now that we have our words to know, let's get into the story. Now I've highlighted here the beginning of some of these words because when good readers get stuck on a word, they think about parts that they know. And we've really been working on beginning blends. So I've highlighted these beginning blends and I want you to see if you can figure out the words by yourself. So you're going to read and then I'm going to read. So we're going to kind of reverse the roles. You're going to go first and then I will go after you. So go ahead and see if you can read this. If you need to pause the video to give yourself some extra time, you can do that. Great job reading. Now it's my turn. And now you're going to check to make sure that those words were right that you read with those beginning blends. Drop the slipper, Gus. Now we can also use the picture to help us here. We see some slippers that are by the bed. So when we see that full beginning blend, we can say, oh, that must be slipper. Now we're going to see this word a lot in this book, drop. So this is a word that we could sound out if we weren't sure. With the beginning blend, like drum from our chunk chart, op. Blend it, drop. So good readers think about the parts that they know, and then they put it all together. So let's reread together before we go to the next page. Here we go. Drop the slipper, Gus. All right, now you are going to read and then I will read. All right, let's read together now. Ready? Drop the keys, Gus. Did you get that word keys? We can use the picture for clues, and we can use that beginning sound too, can't we? Keys. Let's read together this time. Ready? Drop the burger, Gus. Now remember when we talked about our words to know, we said, burger is like a hamburger. But could this word be hamburger? No, hamburger would start with a H. But this word starts with a B. So when we look at that picture, we can say, oh, that's a burger, not a hamburger. Now I want us to pause here and we're going to talk about the setting. What is the setting so far? Remember, we're talking about all those story elements in this book. So I want you to pause. I want you to get out your story elements chart and I want you to think about what the setting is. We know the setting is where and when the story takes place. So I want you to pause the video, turn and talk with a parent or sibling, and discuss where and when is the story taking place. Then you're going to come up here to your setting and you're going to write it in to finish the sentence. All right, let's pause the video and do that now. Great job. So we know that the setting is where and when the story takes place. So if I was thinking about the setting in the story, I would know that Gus is at home, isn't he? And I would say it looks like it's during the day. So I would write the setting is at home during the day. And I don't want to forget my period at the end of my sentence. All right, let's get back to the book. All right, let's read together. Drop the hat, Gus. Great job getting that word hat. We can look at the picture for clues as well as the beginning of that word to help us figure out hat. Great job, friends. So we are going to pause again on this page to think about who the characters are. Now, we know that some characters are talking characters, but others are not. We notice that in this book, some characters are talking, but some are not. So I want you to pause. I want you to think about who the characters are so far in our book. Then we're going to come back to our story elements chart and we're going to write in who the characters are. So pause the video and do that now. Nice work, friends. Now, if I'm thinking about the characters, I know that Gus is definitely a character because he's on every single page and the book is mostly about him. All right, I'm going to write Gus the dog. And who's telling him to drop all of those things? Right, his owner. Do we know her name? No, we don't know her name, so we can just call her the lady. All right, got my period at the end. I'm going to reread it back to myself. The characters are Gus, the dog, and the lady. All right, so now that we have our characters down on our story elements chart, let's get back to our book. All right, let's go ahead and read together. Here we go. Drop the doll, Gus. Wow, he just likes to have all of these things in his mouth. And his owner is the one who's telling him, oh, you better drop that, Gus. Let's keep reading. Drop the cat, Gus. Good reading. Ooh, that cat is looking kind of grumpy. Let's read together. Drop the paper, Gus. Now, let's stop and think about what the problem is here. Let's pause, think about what the problem is in the story. I want you to come back to your story elements chart. For oops, there's a problem. And I want you to fill out what the problem is in this story. So pause the video and go ahead and do that now. Now, if I'm thinking about what the problem is, I would say that Gus keeps picking things up and his owner has to keep telling him to drop it, right? So the problem is Gus picks up things and his owner tells him to drop it, right? He keeps picking things up and she has to keep telling him, Gus, drop it. All right, let's get back to our story. Read with me. Good dog, Gus. Now, we're going to go back to our focus question. What does Gus like to do and why? All right, so if I'm thinking about what Gus likes to do and why, I know that he likes to pick things up with his mouth. And I'm wondering if he's doing it because he thinks he's being helpful. I wonder if he's picking it up to help his owner. What do you think? I want you to pause the video and I want you to think about what does Gus like to do and why do you think he does all those things? Was your reason different than mine? All right, nice job, friends. Now let's stop and think, how did the problem get solved? Let's go back to our story elements chart. And now we're going to go down to, yes, there's a solution. And we're going to think about what the solution is to the problem. Now, we talked about the problem is that Gus picks things up and his owner has to tell him to drop it. So, how did the problem get solved? Pause the video and turn and talk with a parent or sibling about how the problem got solved. So the problem got solved because Gus listened to his owner and he dropped it when she said to, right? And then at the end, she was patting him on the head, telling him he was a good boy for listening, right? So I'm going to write the solution is Gus listened to his owner when she told him to drop it. All right, so let's go back and talk about all of the story elements in our book, Drop It. So for setting, we know that that's when and where the story takes place. We said that this was at home during the day. T is for talking characters. We know the characters are Gus the dog and his owner the lady. O is for oops, there's a problem. The problem today, we said that Gus picks things up and his owner has to always tell him to drop it. R is for resolve the problem. We didn't talk about that today. Y is for yes, there's a solution. And we said that the solution is Gus listened to his owner when she told him to drop it. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to do the writing portion of our lesson. So you are going to write a new line for this book and you're going to pick one. So I've written your options over here. You can either choose one, drop the blank Gus, or you can write about how dogs help people. So dogs help people by, and then you're going to fill it in. All right, so you're going to need another piece of paper, or you can do this on a whiteboard with a dry erase marker. So you are going to fill in the blank with your own word. And then I want you to show me your sentence. Now we know that sentences begin with a capital letter. They have finger spaces between the words. I want you to use your best spelling, your best handwriting, and then don't forget your period at the end of the sentence. Great job reading today. When you are finished, I want you to go back and reread all by yourself. And I want you to think about those story elements while you're reading. Great job today, friends, and I will see you later. Bye.